Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. It was the summer of my senior year in high school, and I was living in a small town, working and going to school. One of my good friends, Emma, asked if I would be interested in house and dog sitting for her family for about a week or so. They were going up to Northern California to visit some relatives. I believe I was going to get paid, and since I didn't really have anything else planned anyway, I agreed to do it. The house was only about 10 to 15 minutes away from mine, so it really wasn't an inconvenience either. Emma's family had 3 dogs, and I'd been over to her house multiple times, so I was quite familiar with them. I figured it would be a fairly relaxing week overall. The first couple of days went very smoothly and nothing weird happened whatsoever. I went to work every day, then came back to their house to take care of the dogs. I fed them, let them outside, and so on. Then on the third day, I worked a late shift from 1 to 9 p.m. After work, I drove over to Emma's house like usual. It was already dark by the time I pulled into their driveway, but as I turned in, I saw something that immediately shocked me. The 3 dogs were all out in the street, just wandering around near the driveway area. The garage door was wide open, and the front door was open also. My first thought was that I must have forgotten to close the garage door when I left. Thankfully, the dogs were still there. I parked in the driveway and jumped out of my car. The dogs looked up at me, wagging their tails, and I quickly corralled them all back into the house. I shut the front door behind me and locked it. Then I went to the garage door and shut that one too. The dogs were acting completely normally, as far as I could see. I went through the house as well and noticed that all of the doors were open, and I mean every single one. The side door to the kitchen, the back door, even all the doors upstairs to the bedrooms, every single window was also wide open. That's when I realized that this couldn't possibly be from me just being absent-minded and forgetting to close the garage door before I left. I called the police immediately. I told them I wasn't sure exactly what was going on, but all the doors were open, and it just seemed weird and suspicious. When the officers arrived, they searched the house, room by room, but didn't find anything out of place. Later that week, on the last day I was house-sitting for Emma's family, I came back from work again only to find the exact same scenario. All doors and windows in the house were wide open. I called the cops once more, and once again, they didn't find anybody inside. I was very scared now, especially after having it happen again. I took care of the dogs and left for the night, being too afraid to sleep in the house. Emma's family came back the next day, and for the rest of the time that they lived there until moving out a couple of years later, they never had anything like that happen to them. They also said that nothing had been stolen or moved at all, so I'm not really sure what was happening. This happened to me a couple of years ago when my husband and I were living in a townhouse in a pretty decent area. My husband was working that night, and it was an unusually warm night for mid-March. I decided to take advantage of the weather and take our 80-pound Siberian Husky on a quick walk around the neighborhood. We got to the end of the street that leads into the complex we lived in, and across the street was a gas station. As the dog stopped to relieve himself, I saw a guy across the street at the gas station with a case of beer in his hands. I had my phone out, texting a friend. I looked back up to notice the man was near the stop sign, also relieving himself in public. I felt really awkward. I put my phone away and led Luke down the street on our path. It was at that exact point that the guy noticed us. He began to cross the street to where Luke and I had just been. I could hear him moving a few feet behind me after about 10 seconds, and then I began to hear the man's footsteps getting even closer. Luke realized that there was somebody behind us. He stopped in his tracks. I was glad that he was aware of our surroundings, but I really wanted him to keep moving so we could get away from this guy. The man was clearly very drunk, and I just had a bad feeling about him. Eventually, the man caught up to me. I tightened my grip on Luke's leash and pulled him closer to me. I stepped out into the grass to allow the man to pass us by. Instead of passing us though, the man stopped dead even with us on the sidewalk and just stared me up and down. It must have been over a minute that he was looking at me, long enough for me to smell the cigarettes and booze oozing from him. I noticed that he was probably in his mid to late 20s, with dark hair. He was extremely dirty. He smiled and finally seemed to notice Luke. He proceeded to ask if he could pet my dog. Before I could even give him an answer, he leaned down and started grabbing Luke's head. Luke certainly didn't like that. He jumped and nipped at him as a warning. The guy backed up while he chuckled and started bombarding me with questions: what my name was, where I lived. Obviously, I gave him a fake name. I said I was only in town for the week. The man made a sudden step towards me and attempted to grab me. I've never heard our dog growl in the 5 years we've had him, but the sound that came from my dog in that moment sounded like a monster from your nightmares. He jumped between me and the guy, snapping at him viciously. This freaked the dude out so much that he stumbled backward and dropped his beer. He immediately said, "Have a good night," and then began to stumble, running down the road. Our dog is the sweetest and most gentle creature I've ever met, and to have him growling and reacting like he did in that moment made me know I was right about my bad feelings about that man. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.